Welcome, and thank you all very much for joining us in this tech exchange hosted today by Swiss Re and also by Microsoft. I'm Gabriela Müller, and today I'm the panel moderator and welcoming four brilliant industry experts who are here to send really a message of expertise, what's coming in the transformation, culture, and also innovation part. So my job is here now to make this a welcoming event, but also an engaging conversation. Before we begin, though, we do want to have to send an important message. We're naturally shocked and saddened by the current conflict in Ukraine, and our thoughts go to all the people affected, the families and friends. Now, after some conversations, both organizing teams decided to go on with today's events, knowing how important is the role of insurance reassurance in this digitalization world, also to mitigate risks and strengthening resilience in society. We're looking forward to engaging in this productive conversation with all of you from wherever you are joining. Welcome. A couple of housekeeping guidelines right now. The session is being recorded. Also, you'll see that you can interact also with the chat line, but more importantly, the Q&A question section. We would like to hear from you. It's already open, so during the entire session, you'll be able to post your questions. Please do so, because our team will be moderating those questions a bit later. Then at the end of the session, there is going to be a Q&A juicy section for you. Please do write the name of the panelist that you would like to address it if there is something specific about your question. We're in historic changing moments, and if you are wondering, what are some of the trends? What are some of the changes and drivers coming your way in important parts of the industry? If you're wondering about the skills of the future or how to build strong partnerships to go farther and faster, you are in the right place. Let me introduce you the four panelists this morning, and you're here for a treat. Let's start with Pravina Ladva, Group Chief Digital and Technology Officer at Swiss Re. Also, member of the Group Executive Committee since January this year. She has previously been part of Swiss Re as a Group Digital Transformation Officer and has helped build digital solutions and whole ecosystems. She's got vast experience in financial technology sectors, strategic areas, past roles as COO and CIO of Berkeley Card Business Solutions, and she joined Swiss Re in 2017 as a Chief Technology and Operations Officer, Swiss Re digital white label provider of property, casualty, and life health insurance. Now, she's been very instrumental in creating and fostering an agile culture, and her first claim of this morning is the right talent and culture are key to unlock innovation and transformation. So welcome, Pravina. Let me introduce you to our second panelist, Catrin Hinkle, Country General Manager of Microsoft Switzerland. She became the country manager in May 2021, so really in the middle of the pandemic. Catrin has a vast experience in cloud consulting throughout Europe and has been working with the Microsoft ecosystem already for a while. She's very experienced in building meaningful conversations and relationship with customers, key stakeholders. She spots opportunities and challenges as a leader, and she studied at the European Business School in Reutlingen and in London, and she enjoys exploring all the regions of her new home country, Switzerland, and a lot of the technology at home with the Internet of Things platforms and programming herself, which we can talk about it later maybe. Her claim this morning: the decisive factor for a successful transformation is not technology. Success can only be achieved through the right partnerships and the right culture. Welcome, Catrin. Joelle Loesch, she's the Delivery Regional Business Leader, EMEA, Microsoft Industry Solutions. In her role, she empowers enterprise customers at every single stage of their digital transformation journey. She brings together deep industry experts and key stakeholders in delivery teams. She joined in 2018 as Vice President of Applications Domain in Microsoft Services, and she's led global teams, help clients succeed, impact profitability, and compete globally. She earned a master's degree in electronics and the international economics. And also, Joelle is based in Paris, France. And her statement this morning is transformation, innovation, and technology will fall apart without the right people and the culture. And last but not least, Ashley Hirst, Chief Underwriter Officer, Standard and member of the Corporate Solution Executive Committee. Since last May, he also integrated his tasks as Corporate Solution Innovation and Transformation Officer for mid-market and large corporate client segments. He helps innovation, digital transformation, and he's got here with a lot of experience throughout Europe and even global distribution parts in his as part of his vast experience. He holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics and also a master's degree in finance. His claim today, transformation is hard. Transformation with a lot of stakeholders is harder, but transformation with the true right partners is easier. Welcome very much, Ashley. All right, what a panel. We are here really for a treat. Let's start with some of the biggest motivators to be here this morning for everybody and audience around the globe who's joining, the transformation of the industry. So I'd like to invite Pravina and Joelle to address this one. What are the biggest changes and drivers for the industry over the next couple of years? You have vast experience there. So welcome, Pravina.
Great. Thank you, Gabriella. And hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. So a fantastic question. There are lots of different trends that impact this and has impacted us over the last few years and will continue to impact us as we go forward. Maybe if I just pick a few of them. The first of all, if we only look at how our own behaviours have changed in the last couple of years, how we interact with technology, what we are now buying online and interacting via our smartphones that we would never have dreamt of doing in the past few years. So that change itself should epitomise what does it mean for our industry. So what we're seeing with the rise of that is, I have this image in my head of us all sitting here with lots of data visually spouting out of us. Now, all of that data provides insight. So all of that insight is fantastic because from that we can provide good information back and enable customers and clients to do things that they've never done in the past. So the trend there is a definite trend in changing consumer behaviour that we as an industry need to act to and be proactive with. The second thing that does is, in line with that, the rise of computational power. So the speed of which we can analyse that data, understand what it is and provide insights. That's another big thing. So consumer behaviour, technology advancements, and then underlining all of that is, how do people interact with products? And more what we're seeing from the industry at large and from outside our industry is how people consume services. So, I paint this example, which is very uninsurance things to say. Nobody in the morning will wake up and go, yay, let's go and buy an insurance. People want to go and buy a house. People want to protect their lives or their businesses. And therefore, for us, it's key to be where the consumer and the client is and to meet them at their needs. So holistically, the trends are consumer-driven, data-driven, technology is enabling over that. And we all know the world is moving so fast. So the rise of all of that together really is super critical about how we as the providers of that services can keep pace. So those are some of the things that we are seeing and also some of the things that we need to act upon.
Excellent, thank you. I'm hearing consumer behavior has shifted and changed and the speed in which things are happening. What about you, Joelle? What's your view?
I totally concur with Pravina is saying. I think there is a kind of collision between people and technology. I think, there is this pervasive existence of technology and this expectation that has changed from every one of us that technology somehow will drive some of the solutions of the big questions that are out there. I think the interesting thing is some very fundamental expectations and some very fundamental aspirations from people are actually colliding now with the professional world. I mean, I'll take sustainability as an example, right? I mean, there is this expectation that technology and companies, along with government and people, will impact those big trends. And this merge of expectations from people is actually spilling over everywhere. And as Pravina rightfully said, the technology and the ability to access this information is actually increasing the expectation. And you know, I'll take actually an insurance example, right? I mean, we have all of this data about climate and things that, you know, could actually help us prevent, or there is an expectation that it will help us prevent, you know, how people can be exposed to potential dangers, and this notion of personal security is becoming extremely important, and the ability to access this data becomes so obvious to people that the question is, why don't you use it to make my life simpler? Why don't you use it to anticipate things, right? So it's like, you know, this expectation that technology will solve some of those big questions and expectations in the world is out there. And information is becoming paramount to solving all of that, at least in everybody's mind. We talked first about big data. We're talking about AI, but this is just a mean to an end, right? This is a fundamental human expectation at the heart of it.
Excellent. One of the things that you mentioned is that collision between people and tech, right? That really tech serves, in a way, meets the expectation of the people at the core. And you also mentioned something, trust, safety and security, really as very important paramount. And that's a good way for me to now go to when we talk about new technologies. I'd like to hear from Ashley and Catrin. When it comes to new technologies, and as we said before, the speed is there. What do you think are some of the most exciting new technologies that we and insurers are developing and investing in at this very moment? Ashley, you first.
Well, look, it's interesting you start with trust, and that's because to me it's the application of the technology right now that's the most exciting part. The whole of insurance is predicated upon the idea that if I want insurance, I share data about myself with an insurer and with others in the process. And that's something which I think increasingly a lot of people and companies are reluctant to do. And there's an amazing thing that's happening in the industry where I think the insurance and the risk industry has a huge amount of knowledge and insight that could be so relevant to society. And people, companies, anybody looking for risk help is increasingly concerned about what happens to their data. And actually, I'd argue that that's probably where the most exciting investments that I see happening in the industry are right now. It's privacy preserving data-related technologies, the technology that enables us as an industry to deploy insight and deploy findings to interact with data from others without destroying privacy or without, while enabling data owners and data controllers to do their job. And then the third technology I'd bring up actually is still in the realm of data. It's not so much about the machine learning piece or all of these words that I know have become very kind of that pervade our society now. The piece that I find remarkable is I think we're investing more and more in interoperable technologies. So the days where there was a single technology that was going to solve every problem, I think are very hard for us to imagine. Much easier for us to engage with technologies when they are built from the ground up to be interoperable with a surrounding system and partnerships and other platforms that different people might use.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Can you elaborate that also, Catrin? Because you are also at the front really from the Microsoft side, deploying new technologies. And as we saw, not only the frame around trust, but also the expectations of the people that are so used to now and here, and even being able to use technology to make their lives easier. What are some of these new technologies in your view?
Yeah, I mean, technology innovation, as we all see, continues at an extraordinary pace. But as I said in my intro statement, it is really only valuable if we create something that users experience, that customers experience, and that adds value. So the technology in itself is not the driving factor. Ashley just alluded to the data side of things. The amount of data that we can process is just enormous, and creating a customer experience based on that, be it in the insurance industry or in other industries, that is intuitive, and we don't really even think about technology, I think is the big change that we're seeing. So thinking from the customer perspective is a big one. I think another one that really helps is if we look at access to low code and no code technology, where actually we can bring in, next to IT, we can bring in users of IT, the business side of things, to help and be part of the innovation in a much easier and intuitive way than we had before. And so it's not those long IT projects that we're running. It is access to data, and then on top of that, applications that can be built in a combination of business and IT, and the boundaries between business and IT actually start to come down, and they merge in a way together to create those products that are relevant for customers and the market. There's lots of new business models that we can actually then create on top of the data and on top of that technology. The technologies themselves, quantum, 5G, telemedicine, and so on, they're not the decisive factor. It's what we do with them that really will drive the difference. And then when we look out a little bit further, we have things like the metaverse that everyone is talking about, a very immersive way to interact with digital content, and that, in my mind, can be a game changer and creates absolutely totally new opportunities for customers and partner experiences. So we will go into that hybrid interaction mode, and that will become a lot more intuitive than it is today.
Exciting. I wonder, we have a very cross-cultural audience right now watching, and I wonder if any of you has ever used the metaverse at some point. Do send us a little bit of an emoji, a reaction on the chat line, and a reminder that we continue to catch your questions in the Q&A part. All right, and what I'm hearing is a very interesting conversation here that you're raising, Catrin, when you say that the blurry line between business and IT is dissolving itself. Did I get that right? And create new business models, right? So we're really now in this innovation part. So absolutely, and speeding up. Let's go to that part when we want to go fast, though, with the right partners. And Ashley, you were saying before, yes, transformation can be hard, but if you have the right partners, it's easier. So this question is for Pravina and also Ashley yourself. How does tech and data change Swiss Re, and what is the role of the partnership in this process? So let's start with Pravina.
Okay, no, thank you. And actually, just building on Catrin's point, I think that's really where we start from. So some things that Catrin said, it's about starting with the customer, the client, the internal and external business need in mind. And what we believe is that tech and data isn't something that's a side of the house that people worry about every now and again. It is a core part of our business. It is the enabler to our business. So it's those two trends that are super important for us as an organisation. And, I like to think, I sometimes get a nervous reaction when people talk about the business or the IT. Like, hang on a minute, business is one, we're all part of the same business. So that's really our ethos as Swiss Re. And that's how we work internally. And that's actually how we like to work with our partners. So we know that our skill set is around, risk management in all of its forms that we can imagine today. But we also know that partnering with the right partners, having the same aligned interests and the goals is key to our progress. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is being realistic about, what we bring together and what we're trying to develop together, and working in a collaborative, but a super transparent, open way. That is another factor that is really key. And I think the way the world has evolved, and as you said, the lines are blurring, what we're also finding is many people or many industries, you don't just stay in your vertical. The value of the technology and the advancements of the technology is actually that you're going cross industries. And that has two benefits for us as an organisation. One, we learn, and two, we have the best experts from cross industries coming together to create the value that we're looking for. But I'll let Ashley build on that.
Well, Pravina, I don't feel there's too much for me to build on. I couldn't agree with you more. I think maybe just to expand on this partnership notion. I think one of the things that we found working with Microsoft is there's something about you can have a team of real experts, and it's the bringing together of that team, as you've correctly said. I think this language of the business and IT is it's destructive rather than constructive. There is a notion of people doing things together, and when you expand that beyond the boundaries of one company, and you can talk about Swiss Re, for example, partnered with Microsoft, what happens is just the depth of expertise that you can bring together is exponentially higher. And that's what I find really interesting about partnerships. There are things that Microsoft can do, the intellectual property that Microsoft has, the deep experts, the experience in doing things that we're trying to do at the moment. And hopefully we also have a set of intellectual property and experts in the risk domain that I think is probably unparalleled in the industry, or at least I'd like to think. And if you put those together, you get something which is not just a plus, it's an exponential gain. And that's where I think the partnership notion is so powerful. In fact, if I just had one other thought as I was speaking, if you don't mind, it just occurs to me that there's something else that's happening right now that I think once upon a time, if in insurance, if you wanted to know how much premium you'd sold or how much business you'd done the last quarter, I guess you'd have to phone the finance team, and the finance team would phone somebody working in mainframe. And then at some stage that changed to somebody in the finance team could access the mainframe. And somewhere along the way, Microsoft has put Excel on the desktops of everybody. And the implication was that many people who would never have seen their role before as engaging with numbers in that degree, everyone uses spreadsheets now to think about and model their business and model their decisions. And I suspect the same thing is happening right now. There's a generational change happening with technologies that are that stage further. There's the number of people that we recruit every year that have had some kind of academic or practical experience in hands-on data manipulation and management, coding and so on, is just terrific. And those skill sets will become as embedded throughout the company as using Microsoft Excel has become in society.
Yes, absolutely. And when it comes to upskilling, reskilling, and the access to that expertise that you said that is now expanding, this is not only a vertical thing, but also cross-functional. Did I get that right? But also the people that are developing now these ideas and become part of both of you, robust culture. You come, both of you, Microsoft and Swiss Re, come from very robust culture, very rich cultures as well. So when we go to that area, when we talk about the right skills and building the right culture, right? And many of you made that also claim that without the right culture, no matter how much our technology and innovation can want to take off the ground, won't find the place to thrive. So I'd like to invite in Pravina and Catrin, because you're really at the front of this and shaping culture from there also. How are Swiss Re and Microsoft investing in future skills and capabilities to be really continue to be leading organizations as they are today? Pravina.
Yeah, no, and as you said, my core belief is that we can have all the best tech in the world, the best process in the world, but if we haven't got the right people working in the right way together, we might as well not even start. That's quite a provocative statement, but I genuinely think that is the secret sauce for success. Now, in terms of how we develop that Swiss Re, it's at multiple levels. So first of all, everybody having a broad understanding around how tech and data enables them in their day-to-day job. So, you know, we have a huge amount of training. You know, we have, you know, trained, you know, I would say there's 25, 30, going up to 40% of our colleagues in data literacy. And then people can dive into some of those tasks on a day-to-day basis. I think the flip side of it is, you know, we're a very purpose-led organisation. And there for us, it's key for people, you know, why people join us and why people love working at Swiss Re. We're working towards a purpose of making the world more resilient. And what tech and data enables them to do is to use those tools and techniques to meet that purpose. So I think for us, the culture is more around how are we achieving our purpose, using tech and data to get there, but also having the right skill sets and tools to achieve it. So yes, it's about learning about technology. Yes, it's about having a general awareness, but it's also working in the right way. So collaborative, cross-functional teams, transparency, speed of action are all super critical. And even from a leadership perspective, you know, it's when people think organizations, they think hierarchy. The way we think about it is leadership from every seat, which means that really everyone should be able to lead. Forget the grades, you know, we have to have grades, we're corporate structures, but everybody should be empowered to make decisions to move things forward. Because we all, you know, all our colleagues come with such rich skill sets. And for us, it's how do we really harness that to achieve our purpose using all the tools that we have. But that, I would say, is, you know, if you were to say to me, what is the toughest challenge? That is the toughest challenge. If you give any of our technologists a piece of tech, I guarantee you they'll implement it. But this other big topic is probably the biggest challenge for many of us in industry and doing similar roles to ourselves.
Exactly. What's the secret sauce then from your perspective, Catrin? Because I love that expression, the secret sauce. But Catrin, what is the secret sauce then in getting the right people, the right talent, but also the future skills that Microsoft is developing?
Well, you know, I think we see a fundamental shift in skills that are needed in the market, and we still tend to think about technology skills and business skills. And similar to what I said before, that, you know, technology and business in the organization are merging, I think the skill sets are merging as well. So having some set of knowledge of technology skills, I think, is going to be needed in every profession, and it actually starts at the board level. So a successful board and even a Verwaltungsrat, we need technology skills in, you know, a finance lead cannot just be a finance lead. A finance lead needs to know how technology can help. Similar to HR, similar to other functions. So it's no longer just the task of the chief digital officer to bring in thinking around technology. It is, you know, everyone needs to have that kind of mindset. So Microsoft and Swiss Re worked on that very, very intensely in identifying, you know, where's the gap, where are the strengths, then build a tailored skilling program to address those gaps. And really help on both sides to shift the culture to the full business engineering and DevOps mindset that is really needed to be successful with these new technologies. Everyone has to adopt some sort of technology know-how. I think that the range of actions is really broad. So it's technology certifications. It is, you know, that can be independently verified. It can be a local program in the company. It needs to go beyond just the company education. We have a huge gap in skills on a national level, and Microsoft is engaging there as well. So we're working on what we call skills for employability, skills for tech, and skills for students to really address this, you know, early in the life cycle, if you will. And we're collaborating with our customers, as I just explained with Swiss Re on the topic, but similarly with companies like Adecco or ETH or HSG, you know, power coders, and the Office for the Economy and Labour of the Canton Zurich. So we really build that ecosystem around building the skills. And we do that. We do AI boot camps for job seekers. We do programming classes for refugees. There's many different things that can be done, and I think that is an effort that requires all of us to really lean in and make that shift happen. The platform that we built as an example with Adecco was visited by 370,000 unique visitors in the past 3 months alone. And currently we have about 85,000 active users that are accessing the skilling offer via this platform. So this can really have, or will really have, a big impact for the economy as well.
I'm glad to hear 85,000. That's a lot. And I'm kind of curious, before I move to the next part, since you both talked about culture and you both said leading from where you are, and this is something leading from your seat. And that is interesting that you both mentioned that into a certain level of, it's not about hierarchy, but really it's about the purpose and leading from where you are. So if you had to spot, what is it that the culture from Microsoft or the culture from Swiss Re can learn from each other in this partnership? What would that be? And feel free, Catrin or Pravina, too.
I mean, the one thing that really jumps out at me is I think the one thing we've really benefited from is on a regular basis that we have access to the broader Microsoft leadership team and some of your labs in Seattle. And I think it was last week, the week before, that we had a session. And the enthusiasm and the passion that came across from your presenters. So that there's 2 or 3 messages I took away. That first of all, that passion and that love and that depth of that product knowledge. That was super clear. That curiosity of what is possible in the world today. I think that enthusiasm is so infectious. So for me, that was huge, and I think we have that in our organisation. But I would, especially in the more innovative space and the more futuristic space, my impression, and it's just an impression, is you have lots of seeds, I call it, and grow many flowers. What I'd like to learn more from that is how are you doing that? But also, when something doesn't work, how do you stop it quicker enough? This is very practical. It's like, let's think about it, let's do stuff, but stop stuff that doesn't work. But having that enthusiasm, because we have the same enthusiasm in our organisation. So I think that's one thing, but I think the knowledge share is one thing. The other thing is the insights from other industries, because where we are getting our inspiration from is when Microsoft colleagues are telling us that, we've done this in FMCG, we've done this in this organisation, and we're like, oh yeah, well, what could we do with that? What does that mean for us? So I think the knowledge, the reach and the enthusiasm that the Microsoft colleagues have is things that we've learned from definitely over the past few years.
And to your point, Pravina, if I may add, Gabriela, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
We have this concept of, tech intensity. We have this conviction, being engineers, that every single one of our customers are becoming, the code. The application is at the heart of everything we do, because this is, as you said, right, with your phone, this is the way you communicate with people across those applications. So everyone needs to become a sort of a nerd, right, and need to have this engineering culture, and the low-code, no-code that Catrin actually mentioned makes it available for a lot of people. So it's actually shifting from a perpetuous learning culture. It's not know it all, it's learn it all, as you very rightfully said. And I think the exchange that we benefit from Swiss Re is this gives meaning to the technology. It gives it a purpose, right? So we have all of those brand ideas about technology, but what do we do with it? How do we impact every single person or organization on the planet? And this is the beauty of working with Swiss Re, because this passion then, can actually be channeled into something useful, and we can learn from Swiss Re, kind of think back. Yeah, technology is brilliant, but what really matters is what you do with it. And Swiss Re anchors the technology into how it impacts, people, etc. And this is the reason why we love it, right? And we can brainstorm and get all of this passion from them that then fuels our own creativity and idea, and then innovation becomes this virtual circle, with the partnership at the heart of it.
that becomes a very creative process. Catrin, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the 2 points that both Ashley and Joelle just made. I think this is a great representation of how a good partnership actually can work. There's 2 companies that come together, Swiss Re with you're the experts in your industry. And then there's Microsoft, and we're the experts in our industry. And we have no ambition to becoming an insurance company as well. You will become more technology driven, but you will not be a technology company. So I think that and what we just described shows how these 2 things come together beautifully in us bringing in the technology skills. And yes, they need to be more more and more industry relevant, but you're bringing in the industry relevance, and bringing that together is really what makes 1 + 1 more than 2. And that is the right partnership, and creating the right culture. I have to congratulate you, Pravina, and Ashley, for that culture that you have created in that, because that is what allows us to bring this partnership to success, so that people really feel comfortable and live in that culture without fear. What I often see is fear of technology. This all sounds very difficult, but then when we show how easy it can be in for a business person, using low code, no code technology, all of a sudden that fear goes away, and that's not something we can completely bring in from the outside. This is a cultural change that needs to happen in the company, and I think you have done. You have started on that journey very well. We're never finished on the journey, but you're in a really, really nice situation in that space. And Microsoft is just trying to share our experience and make it as relevant to you as possible, so we can pick and choose the things, the industry experts, but also the technology experts that are the right ones in your situation. And you let us do that. That's how it works and how it's successful.
Now, when you put it like that, with this passion and enthusiasm, it sounds really like a very fun, creative process. It's almost contagious, I would say. Not only expertise, but also really at the core, the collaboration of very, very dedicated and engaged people, which takes me to some of the expectations now in a relatively post-pandemic world, let's put it that, where the employee is motivated now not only for a paycheck. There are so many other things that now come into place to where the right talent is going and how the right talent is choosing options. So I'd like to hear from Ashley and Joelle, what are your takes in this regard when we say, how are we creating the right environment for getting and keeping the right talent? So, Ashley.
Look, it's a huge question. I think I'm sure every leader on the call and participating would think about it. It's probably the biggest question that we all worry about day in, day out, right? How do you secure that talent and make that talent, give that talent an environment that helps them succeed and be productive? Personally, I think the way we think about it a lot is about this sense of purpose that Pravina referred to, and then the context, the culture that we're able to, put talent within, and give talent around. The sense of purpose is huge for us. We talk about making the world more resilient, and it's a phrase that when you really think about it a little bit. Look, maybe this is my version of the nerd experience that Joelle was referring to. I'm truly passionate about. I think insurance is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's it's a financial service where you're truly aligned to the customer. The maximum we take is a premium. Our incentive then is to help manage risk better. If any entrepreneur is out there with a great idea, they don't want to be responsible for many of the risks that come with those ideas. That's what insurance companies do. They move risk from risk takers who are not the right owners to better owners of that risk. And if we do that, I think we make the world a safer place. We make the world a more entrepreneurial place. We open up opportunities for people to make the world better. I think it's wonderful, incredible. I think we see that this idea of making the world more resilient, being there when the world really needs us, is a very powerful motivator. Now, with that Pravina mentioned leadership from every seat. This is a big, big notion for us. We're not looking to recruit people or talent that we then need to tell what to do every minute. We're looking for people who can take ownership of that sense of purpose and really, make decisions themselves about how to be highly impactful. We've talked for years actually about own the way you work, and one of the things when this pandemic started that we were I think operating in this remote way for quite a while before. It was just a scaling up, but letting people have the freedom to be where they need to be, as opposed to kind of being in an office, that has been ingrained with us for many, many years. And then the final piece, which I think we do really very, very well, is we're incredibly collaborative. So we look for individuals who are experts, but then encourage them to work with every other expert in the firm. And of course, everything has pros and cons. I think sometimes we could probably be faster to make decisions sometimes because we look to engage with so many people. But the positive of it is overwhelming, is that we have this environment of hopefully increasingly empowered people, experts who are able to share. And technology has been crucial to making that culture work. And it's just unimaginable that we could do that, especially in the post-COVID world, without technology. But the culture that exists is a very powerful tool in itself.
Excellent. Thank you, Joelle. And yes, this is you are really in this mission to make the world more resilient as well. And with that spirit of collaboration, I'd like to hear from Joelle. What's your take here? Getting and keeping the right people, the right talent.
I think what Ashley said is very true. I think the aspiration of people is to do something that actually makes them tick. I mean, I think a profession, a career now is not only how you traditionally, develop and become, have more responsibility, etc. I think the leadership now is perceived, and the responsibility is perceived also on how you actually contribute an impact with your job. And suddenly career development becomes more about, if I work for this company, how will I grow personally? How can I actually make my aspirations meet with my professional life? How can I balance what I want to do as a person, what I want to do as part of society and the group, and as a professional? All of this is merging into who I am, and I want to be recognized as a person. So what Ashley mentioned about, making sure people as individuals are understood and recognized, and the conversation about learning and continuous learning is extremely important. And as said, right, technology allows a lot. Hybrid work effectively is different, and allows very, very different ways of working. I think the scarcity also on resources out there is becoming more obvious. I think digital transformation is hard. It's hard for all sorts of different things because it changes the way we work together. It changes the way we collaborate, and suddenly it's not only about siloed in your organization, it's about everywhere in the organization. Data, as we said, is at the heart of it, and every single person contributes to the quality of data, but also to the way you look at it and you understand it. And the diversity of the way we look at it becomes very important. So you need professionals with different experiences and different centricity in what they work on, because this is actually bringing those ideas together that will actually make innovation come to life, and that excites people. This is what they want to do, and I think the communication around that and how we make this happen, this collaboration everywhere, geographically, across also different part of the organization, across companies, is probably the recipe for success. The secret sauce, as you said.
The secret sauce. I like that very much. So before I launch my last very pragmatic short question to my panelists, and please feel free to address any of you for this question, I want to make a reminder to our people in the audience everywhere. Please pose your questions. Our team are going through the questions, are going to choose some of them to address. And again, if you have somebody specific for a question, please do write their names. So these, for any of you, whoever wants to take this one here, what are the key things that leaders must get right in the digital age? And maybe some of the biggest pitfalls to avoid, you know, maybe some crispy do's and don'ts. Who wants to take this one?
Is say you learn from your mistakes, in which case
yes,
I probably learn more than everyone else. I'm happy to keep it first. I think, look, number one, there's a few. Number one, it's not short and snappy. Number one, I think it's hugely important. Don't get excited by the technology, get excited by the application of the technology. Second is hire the right talent. But if you hire the right talent, you have to be willing to give them air cover. You have to be willing to give them space to succeed, and you have to be willing to let people make mistakes. And it's very hard to imagine, you know, kind of change happening without that. And third, short and snappy, is you have to select partners very, very carefully. But once you've selected that partner, once you've found that partner, just I suppose like in a personal life, commit. And that's where the real, you know, commit to honesty, transparency, openness. That's where the real benefit comes.
Excellent. Somebody else had something to say about the do's and don'ts in the digital age.
Yeah, happy to build on that. That's fantastic. 3 things from Ashley. I think I would add to that as more in terms of a leader, and your role as a leader is pivotal in this journey. And the way I see it is you absolutely need to help set the direction and the vision, and then you need to get out people's way and let them get on with it. Because, you know, traditional leadership, sometimes people assume they're the experts. I can guarantee you're not. I definitely am not, you know, but what we need to do is, you know, set that vision and then be a coach, be a supporter, encourage curiosity, encourage learning, and be absolutely open. You know, one thing that is certain as we move forward is the level of ambiguity that we're all going to have to deal with. And that is the environment that we operate in. So being a leader, but being a coach and not getting in the way is super key as a leader.
I think
Excellent.
Pravina, spot on, Gabriela. I would really think about coaching actually both ways. I love actually reverse mentoring, and I think as leader, one thing we can do is engage with people that are totally different, younger people with a totally different background, and actually benefit from this 2 ways street of mentoring, and reverse mentoring is extremely powerful in that way.
Excellent. And Catrin, what's your view before we go to Edmund?
Add to this really good list already of topics, but I would like to add 2 really important points. One is, I think the board and the management, so start from the top in terms of digital education, and also the way you select people, you know, that are joining the board or a supervisory board. I think that is absolutely important. This needs to be driven from the top. Second one is around continuous learning. This doesn't stop. I mean, technology development is really fast. So keeping people up to date, not just about technology, but the way to use technology, the way to think about making technology work for you, the way to think about the outcomes and the business cases that you can drive on the basis of the new technology. So that constant learning, I think, is a really important point. And maybe the last one is get rid of the delineation between business and IT. That's yesterday.
Yesterday, just like the song. Okay, Edmund. So we're ready for you, Edmund. I hope that you have a couple of questions for our panelists as we then endeavor in Q&A.
Hello, everybody. And yes, we've had some wonderful questions from our audience today. Pravina, we've got a question directly for you. This is from Antic. So I love Pravina's comment about there is no IT in business. We are all the business. Would you mind sharing one example or initiative how you implement this mindset in such a big organization like the one you lead?
Yeah, certainly, Antine. Thank you for the question. I think you have to do, I call them either beacons or lighthouses. You have to create real environments like this, encourage people to work in this way, and then guess what? It becomes infectious. So I'll give you an example. There's one business unit that I co-helped set up where, you know, we got people from all different areas. We had legal, we had compliance, we had risk, we had IT, we had commercial product owners. And together, we put the business challenge and the problem on the table and said, this is what we need to solve for. This is the target. These are the tasks. Now let's figure out how we're going to do it in terms of in which order, what's going to add value. And do you know what? At the beginning, it was uncomfortable. People were like, well, actually, I'm only this job. I will only do this. But what then transpired is that sense of team occurred. And people said, actually, well, I know I'm product, but marketing is going to be off for 2 weeks, but that marketing thing needs to happen, so I'm going to do it. The other thing that happened is the coder would step in for the business analyst. And so what you started seeing is more of a T-shaped skilling within that team. You started seeing a sense of team, and the sense became not from what everybody's functional role was, but the purpose became the challenge and the launch that they were trying to aim for. And then people on the outside started seeing this dynamic and went, hang on a minute, I want to go and work like that. Why can't we do that? And then what you started seeing is a spread. And then we all know success breeds success. So people started seeing results and said, well, that was different. And clearly that the way they worked must have been one of the reasons. And that's how it spread. So in summary, I would say start, do something, create these beacons, encourage people to work in this different way. It's a fundamental change for some folks, but I like to think of it as a bit of common sense as well. So that's how I've done it in the few organisations I've worked in, and I know it works because then people have always said to me, Pravina, don't make me to go back to work in the old way because I don't want to do it.
Excellent, very much. All right, Edmund, what do we have?
Super, thank you, Pravina. So I've got a question here. I think, Joelle, you might like this one. So thanks a lot for the insights, especially about how to leverage data collaboratively between Swiss Re and Microsoft. What are the tech initiatives you think are the most exciting that you could build up through the partnership? And PS, it's refreshing to see a high-level tech panel with the majority of women.
Well, half the world out there, right? So you need to bring all of the talents to the table. It will be a big mess to just have nerdy men when there are so many good nerdy women out there. And you know, I think it's great to see those things coming together. I think it's, you know, I mean, this is the interesting thing. So I think it was Ashley, you mentioned how, you know, IoT, so the Internet of Things, all of those appliances with intelligence out there that are actually providing information. It goes back to data in the end, right? Because this is how you capture all of those things. Security is paramount. And I think the need for talents around security and embedding security in everything that we do is becoming extremely important, and we see that with the current circumstances. So that's an important technology. Quantum is emerging out there, and the power of you know, the computing powers that it is bringing is something we haven't even started to explore. Metaverses, I think Catrin mentioned metaverse, and again, the ability to leverage what's out there, and virtual reality or augmented reality. This has already started, but we are seeing more and more applications of virtual reality and how it makes life easier. I mean, you just name it, right? Anything that you read out there in the newspaper, anything that exists in a game, gamification is a big one as well. So, I mean, don't get me excited there. I could go on for hours.
No, actually, we see that excitement. Edmund, we're ready for one of the last questions before we give the word to each of our panelists for their closing thoughts and remarks.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I've got another question here directly. It's for you, Catrin, from Christian Richter. Catrin, what would you describe as the best impact measures for a company to assess the value of their public cloud journey?
Well, to really think about the value of the cloud journey, you think about the value of the business and the business outcomes that we measure today. So the value of the cloud journey will be measured in the business impact that the company has, very simply.
Excellent. Wow, that was so crispy. Very good. So what I'd like to now move on is to, as we're moving to from these the three key elements of transformation, culture, and of course innovation here. What we want to do is when you bring it all together, I'd like you to think to all of our panelists here, what is the one thing that you would like our audience to hear, remember about culture transformation and building strong partnerships to be future ready? And we can start with Joelle.
The one thing I would like people to remember is there is no border to what it is that you can do leveraging your skills. It starts and ends with technology. It starts and ends with business because it's all one and the same thing. So don't limit your career and think about the power of the collaboration to really impact.
Excellent. Something for us to think about and keep. Pravina.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of good threads that came out from today, but the two things I guess I'll summarize is keep learning and keep being curious. Because without that, it will be hard to harness the power of partnership, the heart of digitization, or the heart of transformation.
Very good. Ashley, what's on your mind? What would you want to leave all our cross-cultural great audience with this morning?
Look, it's hard to pick on just one thing. I think so many smart things have been said by my colleagues on the panel. I think if there's one thing I'd just leave it, I think we've all talked about culture again and again. And I would just say, look, it's just reminded me of not only how important it is, but it's hard to build. And the only way to build it is to live up to the standards and the marks of success that we want for it when things get hard. So I guess if there's one thing I'm going to take away from the discussion, I'll share that with everyone, is I'm just going to remind myself and recommit to living up to all of our cultural standards, even when things get tough.
Yeah, and to continue building that resilient, and in your case, with both robust, strong cultures. All right, and Catrin?
So my closing statement would be that really no organization will successfully reinvent itself or their industry alone. Those ecosystems, and Ashley, I like what Ashley said around, you choose your partners carefully, but then you go with it and you really invest in that. Those ecosystems really enable that engagement and that co-creation and that collaboration and complementing each other and learning together. So that is really key to making all of this work and to share the success in those ecosystems.
Great. And any other burning thought from our panelists? Because I saw some people nodding here. If you have one other burning thought, otherwise, I'm sure there are some other questions, and our team is happy then to go through the questions. And if there is anything that we didn't have time to cover, we'll get back to you and just simply keep an eye on those. Anybody here? Closing remark? You see, we're hitting that mark with time in the Swiss time. Good. From my part, yes. Who was on about?
Very quick one for Ashley, if you're ready there. What was the most impactful and recent tech project and features which impacted user and client experience in Swiss Re?
30 seconds or less. It's the You know what? Our journey with Azure in the last 3 years has been huge, huge. And it's one of those things which our clients probably don't see directly, but the consequences of what we're doing and the re-engineering that we're doing into the cloud, I think we've got a lot of internal and external users that have a faster, easier, quicker, secure response as a result. And the network effects of being in the cloud with Azure have just been terrific for us, and will be hopefully even better as we go on.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for joining us this morning, and thank you to all our panelists for the great takeaways. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.